Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Thriving Together podcast. I'm Corinne, and we have Kira with me. Kira, how are you?
Hey guys, I'm fine, thanks. Good to be back. And I think it'll be a good episode.
Yeah, well, I want to thank you for being here because I know that you are on vacation right now. So thanks for your dedication.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about building authentic relationships. And Kira, I do have a question for you. What do we mean by authentic relationship in the context of a Christian community?
Well, simply put, based on truth, I think authenticity is it varies, but it stays around the same values. I would say that it has to be founded on truth, honesty, and reciprocity as well. I think in the Christian community, to be more specific, an authentic relationship is one that is based on truth and on love. God is love, and we have
Yeah,
the famous First Corinthians 13 that tells us about all the expressions that are expected from love or
yeah.
that derive from love. I'd say, yeah, if we want to have authentic relationships, they really have to be founded on love. What do you think about it?
I agree. I mean, love is the most important thing for me in a relationship. I mean, love carries everything. Like you said, when we think about First Corinthians 13, it really details like love does this, love does that, love does this.
Yes.
So when you say I love you, it for me it's more like a decision, a choice that you make. I choose to be,
Mm,
I choose to be that for you. So I agree completely with you that love is for me is the foundation, and truth, of course we
yeah.
always have to speak truth as believers. It is important to speak truth, and we can say, and we
I like the fact that you said speak the truth in love because we have this tendency for the past years that people say it is my truth. I speak my truth. And I'm like, there cannot actually be many truths. Like at some point, truth has to be universal. Although I get the point of people who use that argument or who use that statement, I think as believers, no matter what our truth may seem to be, the truth should be
yeah,
the ultimate measuring line. Like if it's not God's truth, then hey, your truth
right,
is not really truth.
right. I'm thinking about the sentence that Jesus made when he said, I am the truth. You
Yeah.
know, he is the truth. So if your truth is not based on him,
Mm,
what truth are we talking about here?
yeah, exactly. And I think it also affects like our relationship with truth and God's truth, to be more precise. It also affects how we balance our relationships. I remember there are so many cases that are coming to my mind
Yeah,
right now, talking about
choose one and share.
being truthful with someone. So I'd say in terms of friendship, right?
Mhm.
I have friends that I've had for like 20 plus years and more recent friends. And I remember at a point I felt like I I don't need no new friends because friendship is demanding. Like
It is.
I don't know how to do superficial relationships or friendships, to be more precise.
Yeah.
And with internet and being on Instagram, you meet a lot of people in comment section, right? And you start interacting with people and you have that kind of virtual community, but you don't really know the people.
Hmm.
And I'm very conscious of that reality. Like I know this is my online contact, not necessarily a friend. But
Yeah.
I remember having one specific in quote friendship. I don't call that a friendship, but like a person that was like getting close and everything. And we actually had a good vibe, but we just didn't, it just, I couldn't get to the place of being completely genuine. It was very superficial.
Yeah.
And I was okay without being that because I'd acknowledged, okay, it's a superficial, shallow online relationship. It's fine, you know?
Hmm.
Um, but the person felt like, I don't know if it's entitlement or what, but felt like I had to be profound and open up and tell deep stuff. And I'm like, I literally do not know you. How? We can eventually grow from the superficiality, right? But I
Hmm.
think the trap with the online space is that people think good vibes automatically means I have to be 100% vulnerable, I have to open up, and because you can have a good feeling with someone and that's that, and
Yeah, that's true.
it doesn't have to go deep, you know.
You mentioned superficial a couple of times now, and I really want to know, according to you, what do you make? What's the difference between being superficial and being genuine in your connections? That's one question. My other question regarding that person you were vibing with,
Yeah.
what stopped you from actually exploring that maybe we can actually be more genuine and not superficial? Because you mentioned that she wanted, like, she was open to doing
Yeah,
this, but you weren't. Is there anything from the way she was behaving that made you not want to explore being deep with her?
absolutely. I'll start with the last question and say that I think I'll merge both, right? For
Okay.
me, like to have an authentic connection, we really need to share like common values, uphold the same standards and values for us
Right.
to connect, right? And over some conversations, I realized we really don't. We have this common thing, but in terms of what I really respect and honor, it wasn't the same
Yeah.
on both. And it's normal. I mean, we're grown up adults. We don't have the same background, etc. So of course we will be different.
Mm-hmm.
But because also I'm adult, I don't bother forcing relationships that don't have to evolve into, friendships. It's just like it will stay at the level of a superficial in quote relationship. I just have the idea of, the tabernacle of Moses with the
Mm-hmm.
different rooms or spaces for intimacy with God. And
Right.
some people are your outer court people, and it's fine. I mean, it's not everybody will be your holy of holies, and
Exactly. And
and
I
it's
think
fine.
sometimes that's the problem that some people have. They have a difficulty understanding that, like you said, you're not going to be in my holy of holy, surrounding.
Yeah,
And you have to be okay with that.
exactly.
Plus, sometimes also relationships grow, you know.
Mm.
Like today you can be in the outer court and tomorrow you'll be in there in the holy of holies. But it takes trust, sharing the same values and time.
And today you can be in the holy of holies, and tomorrow be in the outer court. That really happens that way. So, in making that comparison, what would you say tells you clearly that this is a shallow connection and this is genuine, or this has the potential to really become a genuine connection?
How do I know? Honestly, I think for me, it starts with the things that we share together.
Mm.
The way the person expresses love and the way I receive love. When I think about some of my relationships, like that really stood ground, and I know that I was genuine in this relationship, is the person was speaking love in a way that I could understand. So I was receiving
Ooh.
love. Like being there for me, quality time, for example, like when I see a friend actually being there, like physically present and sharing, it, I mean, it does something to me. I'm actually thinking about two relationships that I have, but let me speak in the
Mhm.
past, like that I had. And this other person, one of them had was more financially stable,
Yeah,
so that person was able to give me more gifts than the other one. But I felt more attached to the other one because gifts is not my love language, and the other
yeah,
one wanted to spend time with me. So it was like, from an outward position you might wonder, like, but this one's giving you more gifts, why don't you tend to be more attached to her? And I'm like, I love the gifts, I'm very grateful for the gifts.
yeah.
There is something about being there.
Mm.
And it's together, like we fuel each other. We don't necessarily have to speak the exact same language, love language, but there has to be a common
Common
ground. Like,
ground.
yeah, we
Yeah,
have to share, because I know that people have more than just one love languages.
of
But
course.
can have one language that's like it's I'm on the top two and we share it together. It's one of the things that makes my relationship usually more genuine.
Yeah, I like the fact that you refer to love language. And so, guys, speak your people's love languages, or at least know yours, so you can identify where to draw the line and where to continue.
Yeah, I
But
think it's even important to actually have the conversation with a friend,
I know, right?
because we generally think that love languages is just for lover, but man, this thing goes deeper.
Louder, please.
Friendship, relationship with your children,
Yeah.
it's like even at work, my dear. I think
Yeah.
he actually wrote a book about love language at work.
Yeah. I
So
think
it's
there's been
like,
an application of that book to every possible life situations or
yeah,
relationships. I think it's just essential knowledge to have, like just be aware of the fact that there are love languages. And
yeah,
if you want to connect with people at their core or at a deeper level, you must be able to speak the same language at a certain point. Not necessarily all the time, but at least have a common ground, like you said. So,
mhm,
talking about ground, let's go to the ground of grounds, the biblical foundations. What does the Bible say, according to your own knowledge, about forming genuine relationships? Like, is there a verse or a reference that comes to your mind right away when I say forming
yes.
genuine relationship? Please share.
I have one that I love is iron sharpens iron.
I was like 75% sure that that reference would have come up.
No, I really do love that because, man, friendship has to be, or connections have to be genuine and reciprocal.
Yeah.
I cannot be there for you, like listening to you, giving you advice, and it's only me doing that and you never do that.
Mm,
It's just like so unbalanced, and I feel
yeah.
like this is not being honest. And I want, for me, oh my goodness, when someone is honest with me, even if I don't know you very well, you first gain some level of trust. I love honesty. I had this friend when our relationship started, I didn't know her that much.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was going to spend some time at her home, like a
Mm-hmm.
month. I was going through a transition, so I had to spend some time at her home. And I was just being me, doing my stuff. Like, I do that. When I get to
Yeah.
someone's place, I usually open my bags, organize my stuff, put it out of the bag. Like, I do, like, when they say, fais comme
Feel
chez
at
toi.
home. Yeah.
I take that word literally. And that's,
Literally.
yeah. And that is because when I have guests at my home, I
Yeah.
say that and I'm honest. Like, I
Yeah.
want to make sure that when you are at my home, you fais vraiment comme chez toi.
Yeah.
So I started like organizing stuff and da 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 da. And she's not used to that.
Mm.
So the next morning she calls me and she says, we need to talk. In my mind, I'm like, oh, what did I do? And I'm thinking about, I'm like, what did I really do? And she tells me like the things that I'm doing, she's not used to, and da da da. And she felt like there was a part of me that wasn't honest about something. I mean, it goes deeper than that.
Yeah.
But the simple fact that she sat me down and told me how she felt, honestly, she gained trust right there. I was like, thank you for telling me. I prefer when someone tells me what's wrong than actually acting, like
Yeah.
you just act a kind
You
of way and we
pretend.
are in the house together. And I love that. So honesty is like a big thing for me, and it goes really in relationship with iron sharpening iron. You're
Yeah.
honest with me, I'm honest with you. And like I said in the beginning, let's do that in love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that, and I want to give the reference. So it's Proverbs 27, verse 17, that says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. So one woman sharpens another.
Hi. What
Yeah,
about you? What one?
I'd say Amos 3:3. Two cannot walk together unless they be agreed. I think
Mm.
there has to be a level of agreement for a relationship of any kind, but especially if we have to be profound and genuine, I think we have to. I will not say have an official conversation and say, okay, now we've become friends. No.
Like now
I'd
you're
say at
best.
least, yeah, but I think to a certain extent we have to be like, okay, I'll be there for you to this extent. And I think what the verse also means to me is that we have to agree on certain things, especially if the relationship is growing. And for example, I'm taking back to my context. For example, most of my friends, we live in different countries.
Mm-hmm.
We are adults for the most part, growing families, etc. So the dynamic of the friendship is not like when we were young. We could hang
Yeah.
out, or during our university years where we would be watching a series all night. The probability that it happens again is very, very low. Being aware of that, I also try to adjust my expectations. But if I feel like at a point this person is overly absent, I'll
Yeah.
be like, listen, don't be forming, I'm busy. Like, yo, we are all busy. At some point, show up. I'll be like, if we are in this, I'm not taking your 5% friendship level, please. No,
Wait, would you say that?
I do. I literally said that to a friend lately. Actually, to two friends. I'm like, listen, you're busy, I'm busy. I'm not even trying to make claims on your life or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
this level of friendship you're giving me is not. No, I don't take that. It's either you have you make some time, even if
Mm-hmm.
it's once every 2 months, and just call my phone, do something. But I can't always be the one checking on you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a moment, you want to have a 5 hour talk, like it's not happening. Where have you
Oh
been?
wow.
Like she's like, yeah, I
Okay,
know.
let me ask you about this. What type of friendships would you address this way? Are these the people in your holy of holies?
Yeah, Holy of Holies or even Holy Place. So for proper reference, guys, we are talking about the Tabernacle of Moses. In the Old Testament, I'll get the exact reference where it's first mentioned, but it was generally a tent that the Lord asked Moses to build for the people of Israel, not today's Israel. Don't
Yeah.
listen. The people of Israel to worship God. So there were three major spaces for worship. The outer court where all the people were crowded, and you have the rituals for quote unquote first level sanctification, and then you had the holy place where the priest and the Levites will enter, and then you have the holy of holies where only the high priest will enter. So yeah, that's that. We'll find the reference and put it in the show notes where it's first mentioned. So yeah, even holy people, because my holy of holies is very small. I think maybe there are five.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if it's up to five. Let me think. Yeah, probably there should be like five. So holy people, uh, yeah, I can address, because I attach deeply. I don't have lots of friends, but the ones I have, I really consider my friends. So
Yeah.
at some point, if I really miss a friend because they're just too busy or not that invested, I'll let them know, like, first of all, I miss you. Second of all, you annoy me because you're overdoing this at busy life. So start adjusting, like we have to agree. And if I do it once, twice, and I realize there's no change or that's just a rhythm you have, I literally also back down, like, okay, this is what the person is ready to give. And
Mm-hmm.
it hurts, but I kind of accept, so that because if I don't, then I get frustrated every time because I'm not nurtured properly, you see. So
Yeah.
so I just leave it like that, and actually then it becomes superficial. Although when we call ourselves or when we meet up, we can have nice time together. But
Yeah.
man, you're just towards the outer courts.
Okay, we are adults, which means we are responsible of our actions. There are certain things that you need to know as an adult,
Mhm,
right? I don't know how to say this. Let me speak for myself. Okay,
mhm.
I have a hard time telling an adult like what you just said. You know,
Really?
oh yes, like, and the thing is, I'm coming from somewhere. I'm a very loyal friend, and when I was younger, I was very intense in my
Mm-hmm.
relation. In fact, today when I think about it, I was like toxic love. Like because I
Yeah.
will love you with everything I have. I will love you. L'amour est violent. Okay, my love is like that. Like I will stand for you even if I have to die for you. I'm like intense. I was intense. So I've been hurt in the past because of these things.
Yeah.
So today, when I see a friend not giving like I would expect her to give, I will not say anything. Like I would just, oh yeah, I would just,
No.
oh
What?
yes, I'm telling you, I will not say anything. I will just like take it on me and like, okay. Because the thing, a friend actually told me this. She said, Corinne, you have the tendency of having too much expectations. That's why you hurt that much. So for me today, I don't usually like tell anymore because I'm also thinking about myself. Like I need to chill because I have the tendency, which is true, I do
Mm-hmm.
have expectations, Kira. I have the tendency to ask. So I'll just stay quiet and hope that, it's gonna pass. And when it's gonna pass, the person will maybe come back and da da da.
Yeah.
And honestly, I have started doing the same. I've started like when a friend is overwhelming me, I'll just retract. Like I'll not say anything. I'll just retract and like you're being too much right now. I will not let
Yeah.
you. Me in the past, I'll confront you. Like, you are, tu bouffes mon énergie, tu vois. Ou alors, dans le sens contraire, c'est genre, tu ne me donnes pas suffisamment et j'ai l'impression de te donner plus.
Yeah.
But today, I'm like, you know what, you do whatever you want to do. And it goes even with my friends in the Holy of Holies. I'm like, Corinne,
I don't know. Well, I
what,
mean, if it
what,
works for
what would
you.
you say about this? If someone is like me in that case, what would you tell the person?
So I don't know if I'll tell anything to the person, but I think I try to view relationships in general through two lenses. So you have the love language lens and you have the attachment styles lens. I believe we're the sum total of our experiences. And so when people come into relationship, they come with baggage. It can be good or bad baggage, but we come with baggage in relationships, right? And the way we attach also determines when I look at my friend, I try to see how their attachment styles. From what I see, I can be wrong, but from what I see over the years, I can be like, okay, this person has this attachment style. So this is the tendency of this attachment style. So for the records, there are majorly four or three major groups of attachments styles, where you have the securely attached people, which should be the ideal where everybody should be, of course, but very few of us are there. And then we have
Wait, let me
the
tell you something. You
yeah.
know, when you told me to take that test, I took the test and I actually fell on the secure attachment.
Yeah.
Like I'm healthy, and I was like, I'm healthy? How?
The thing is, when you are aware of yourself, you have the easier for you to move um to the secure part, but you also know your
Oh,
background.
yeah.
Like if I know I am avoidant, right? And I know that I have a good component of secure attachment. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
even going to pretend. So when I take tests, many tests say I'm secure, but I know there is this avoidant thing that I can spot very quickly, you know. So when I see it coming up, I'm like, okay, this is it. And how do I act upon it? So it's a bit the same thing with my relationships. Like if I see someone acting, I'll be like, are they acting out of their insecure style or they're leaning towards the secure style? So that is what I would tell the person who is acting like you. For example, it's like, are you more leaning on your insecure style or are you more leaning on your secure style?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can actually, like, for an avoidant, it's easy to retract. It's very, matter of fact, is the way to do it. I am out. So when I see this, I'm like, no, there's no, it's not the only way. I can do better, and I try to work on it and dig deep and be like, okay, why? Or for people who love deeply, generally they are anxiously attached. So you'd be like, why do I long so much for this connection this way? And what need in me is expressed in this way actually, and you try to meet the need rather than focusing on how you're expressing the need. So yeah.
You see, I think that it's just recently that I heard about attachment thing, but when you read the description,
Mm-hmm.
I think I was more in the anxious area. of attachment, and I
Mm-hmm.
grew into a more secure attachment.
Yeah.
Now, when I say that, I don't question my friends. I'm like, you're an adult. When he's gonna come back, life happens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I used to be like it's really gonna upset me, but today it doesn't, and I think that's the reason why now I'm more secure. It doesn't upset me, like because I understand that there are seasons. Even my closest friend, it's like I understand that there's a point where we're just not gonna talk
Mm-hmm.
because I don't even have things to share. I'm just like I need a break from talking every day, if I can say
Yeah.
that. I'll just stay, je reste dans mon coin. And I don't have any problem. And I do
Mm-hmm.
understand that sometimes friends can have that. And that's why I feel like it's more safe for me to visualize things that way.
Yeah. Well, I think it's there's no right or wrong answer to this. It really
Yeah.
depends on your experience, your relationship dynamic, and where you at the moment, where you are at the moment.
Now, let me bring it back to the Christian community. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think are some of the challenges that we face in forming genuine connections with our Christian community?
Girl, am I allowed to break that tape? I think that the many Christians we pretend a lot because
Mm-hmm.
of
Yes.
holiness, in
Mm-hmm.
quotes, because of holy life, sanctification, blah blah. So we want to appear spiritual,
Yes.
and because of that, a lot of people put up masks and pretend to be who they are not yet. I believe we're all growing to be perfect and like Christ. But I think a lot of Christians in the Christian community, because of the general discourse in church about being an example, salt, light, da da da. So it kind of puts a subtle pressure to
Mm-hmm.
appear and always be that good person. You can pretend to a certain degree, you cannot pretend your whole life, you cannot pretend all the time.
Yeah.
So when you try to get in connection with people, by the time people start to get deep, you see yourself as you are and they see you as you are. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the difficulty, one of the big challenge or barrier is the fact that Christians become professional actors. We become experts at showing an image of who we're not, an image of what we think is lovable. So I
Yeah.
would say people, for example, you struggle with something, you struggle with a sin, for example, and you have this friend, you feel like this person, you like the connection with the person. And as a Christian, the Bible says, love, yes, love one another, pray for one another. You know that you can have a cover because the other person is a Christian, and just the prayer of the person will support you. But because you don't want to show up as the person who sins, you keep it up to yourself and you pretend. And so the relationship cannot go to the next level of depth. Or
Yeah.
else, if you had opened up with that, or you're struggling, I mean, it can be anything. But because we don't like to show our weaknesses, we only like to be praised and be like, oh, she's so deep, she's so spiritual, da, da, da. Because of that image, we stay surface level a lot. We
Mm-hmm.
sit among ourselves and clap for one another. Oh, brother, that, oh, bishop, this, oh, that. And you're like, guys, can you just be honest? Some people struggle. I mean, some people are broke. They will never be like, listen, I have been broke for the past 2 years. Something is not working in maybe my
Mm-hmm.
finances. They will not address it. They'll just be like, "Ugh, the Lord will provide." Yes, the Lord will provide. But if you allow people to address certain aspects of your life, you open room for deeper connections, therefore, more genuine connections. But because we put up walls around us, I mean, for different reasons, I always say the church is the place where we have a lot of traumatized people that
Mm-hmm.
don't admit that they're traumatized. They just pray to
Yeah.
God to fix them. But they're like, I am the head and not the tail. No, Wahal, you are, but you are also traumatized.
And
So,
sometimes things happen like that, and breaking news, you hear someone, you're
oh,
like, but I thought this person was. And it's like, well, deep down, there were issues
Yeah.
and no one wanted to talk about it.
Yeah. 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 So
So,
that I
what
think.
is your advice to brethren that actually behave that way? Like, what would you tell them? And what would you tell no, so I have two situations. What would you tell someone who is pretending, who is hypocrite kind of?
Mhm.
And what would you tell someone who doesn't want to be that way but can't find someone who they can honestly speak to?
Mm, in general, right? It might sound cliche, but you can pray for friends. I remember the last time I spoke with our pastor, and I was telling him the challenges I had finding good, like people who I really match with, or I now leave, and he said pray them out, and I was like, actually, kind of makes sense. We can ask God for things. We can ask God for people. Ask and I'll give the nations to you, he said in Psalm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the first thing is to really pray for connections, but also pray, ask God to help you to be yourself and
Mm-hmm.
to preserve you from counterfeit friendships. But for those who pretend, we just have to understand that church, there is no perfect Christian. It does
Mm-hmm.
not exist. Even the best of us, by the time we stand before God, there is always a fault in us. There is always something that God will have against us. But the blood of Jesus is actually the equalizer. So, yes, we have the blood, but we have our realities. We have our context, who we are. So, I'd say because there is no perfect Christian, it's fine to drop your mask.
Yeah.
It's fine to drop your mask. But I also think that the church should do better at accommodating people who need to be honest. Like, because the way we can judge, I think there is no worse place than church in terms of judgment. We
Mm-hmm.
can judge to the uttermost level. We will
Girl,
judge you to the place where you just want to go and jump on the bridge. I mean,
I'm
like,
telling you, what?
it's Christians, we're just doing too much. So, how do you think we can overcome those obstacles in Christian? Because I see that
Mm-hmm.
happening also in the online space with all the women's ministry and all the sisterhood groups, and like the same challenges we have in our local assemblies, I see it transferred now to these new online communities that are faith-based, etc. So how do you think we can get over these obstacles?
First, for my observation, I think it's mostly this kind of issues is mostly a women issue. And the reason why I'm saying this is women have the tendency of being less honest than men because they don't want to be
Oh.
as compared to
Shots fired.
men, for example, they're more inclined to say things the way they are. You see two believing men and it's usually more easier for a guy to say I'm interested or I'm attracted by this woman as compared to guys like no, I'm very holy, I don't like this guy, and I think we should learn to be, I want to speak mostly to the women, and I know
Yeah.
some guys listen to our podcast, but let me speak to women. We need to understand that our authenticity and our honesty is pleasing to God, which is true.
Mm.
Because even when you come before God, it's like come with an open heart,
Yeah.
And you said something about praying, and I think praying is very important. I prayed for friends. I prayed for, there was a year where I said, Lord, there are certain friendships that I don't want anymore, but I don't know
Yeah.
how to get rid of this relationship. Make it happen. Like, make those relationships stop and bring me, like, I don't mind having new friends. Okay. And I was like,
Yeah.
bring me genuine connection. So, prayer, it's very, very important to like bring forward, like, okay, let's this happen. So there was a third point that I was thinking about. Sorry, I forgot. But overall, for me, that's really the idea. Like, take yourself the way you are. Okay, the third point was you will find your tribe, and you have to believe
Mm.
that you will find your tribe. You know, don't go there and open yourself to anybody like you are testing the water, because your secrets can go out there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
like you may say something, say, well, I'll tell her, and I will see if she's
If
gonna.
she's gonna spread the news.
Voila. You can
And she
say something.
does.
Voila. Say something maybe that is actually not a secret. Like if it
Yeah.
comes out, I don't care, and then I'm like, okay, now I see who you are, you
Yeah.
know. But what I mean is, you will find your tribe. You
Mm.
will find women, Christian women like you, who are not afraid to say, like, Kira, I am going through this. I am
Yeah.
struggling with this, and she will listen to you, not judge you, and be there for you. It all, like we said, it all comes down to prayer, Kira. You cannot joke with praying
Yeah.
for having good friends and praying for having genuine connections in the Christian community.
Hmm. I think it all boils down to unity. When Jesus was in his final remarks to his disciples, and even Apostle Paul in the epistle talks a lot about the unity of the brethren, right? In his closing remarks, in the epistles, we always have something about the unity of the brethren. I think one of the things the enemy fights a lot is just the whole idea of unity.
Yeah,
you know, One body, one God, one baptism, one spirit. Like, the enemy doesn't like the one thing. It just is something that he will always fight. So whenever there is a gathering that is for godly purposes or just for good, it will be sort of fought, or it will be challenged anyway. If
hmm,
it's for bad, like for evil, it's fine. It will be glorified. I mean, the people of the Tower of Babel, they literally were one, but for the wrong reasons. And their unity was not contested. It had to be God Himself coming and be like, okay, this has to stop because these guys won't stop if I don't stop them. So I
yeah,
also think just keeping in mind the fact that there is a bigger picture, and there is a bigger, like, me being a good friend and growing healthy relationship glorifies God. It's an image of
yeah,
what the kingdom has to look like and what the kingdom actually is. A kingdom
absolutely.
divided against itself cannot stand. So we have to be agents of unity and of peace. And of
Correct.
course, with if we end relationships, it shouldn't be like we are enemy for life. Like, sometimes
Hmm.
people will come in your life a season. I remember David in the book of Samuel, Second Samuel, I think chapter 1, if I'm not mistaken, when the Amalekites came to report that that King Saul had died, and that the Amalekite, had killed King Saul. I mean, Saul had been trying to kill David for years, and Saul was David's best friend's dad.
Yes.
So it wasn't just like the king that I'm working for, but it was also my bestie's dad. So we had
Yeah.
that kind of close connection to a certain extent. Why? So he knew that even just because of his friendship, I can't kill your dad. Like, why would I
Hmm.
do that? And even if your dad hates me to the point where he tries to kill me several times, I'm dealing with it differently. I'm not trying to kill him back.
Yeah.
And the extent to which I saw David in this specific story, we can contest this idea in other stories, but in this specific story, the fact that he was offended by the news from the Amalekite, not the fact that Saul was dead, but more so the fact that the Amalekite soldier announced it like, I kill Saul, so give me a reward, sort of. And he was like, how can you touch the Lord's anointed, the famous touch not my anointed thing, where it comes from? He literally ordered to kill back the guy because he had just
Hmm.
broken protocol. But then
Yeah.
again, Bible commentaries even say the guy probably lied, because other versions, like in the verses before the last chapters
Hmm.
of First Samuel, says that Saul killed himself, like he jumped on his own arrow.
Or
So anyway, to say that the value of keeping a relationship, even when it ends, you still preserve it, like till the last minute, how David did. It's biblical, and it doesn't have to be like we're not friends, so we're enemies for life, and I'm going to destroy your reputation. I'm going to destroy, everything about you. Everywhere I go, I'll be like, she's a bad girl. She's a dada. She's an evil. Like, nah. And I found this book. I haven't read it, but I think in general, church leadership should more have more emotional intelligence. Because in as much as the church is a spiritual institution and we're here to grow people spiritually, we're still living on earth. And
Mm-hmm.
there is a lot of mental issues, psychological issues that we need to address. But we have leaders who are not even emotionally healthy,
Yeah,
who don't know anything about emotional intelligence,
and that's
and they
unfortunate.
are leading. So
Yes,
what kind of believers are we gonna have if we don't work on that? So
we
yeah,
need to do better at this.
definitely. Definitely. I dream of the days where we'll have practical workshops like that in Christian community. No, to be honest, like for leaders, for people, talk about things, life issues, and not it I said workshop, not a training or a sermon, like where it's very practical, people
Yeah.
live with applicable knowledge, you know. So how in a more practical way, what would you say there are some steps that people can take to build authentic relationships? Like if there are a step by step approach, what would you say?
That's a very interesting question. It's also a difficult one, but let me try and answer. The first step is to know yourself.
Yeah.
Know yourself, love yourself. Someone said somewhere that how can you love someone if you don't love you? How can you love someone if you don't know how to love yourself first?
Mm,
It's difficult because you don't even know what love is if you're not able to extend love to yourself.
yeah.
So know yourself, love yourself. I told you this was a difficult question.
Yeah.
Pray about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Honestly, I'm sorry. I'll let you. I'll let you
I'd say
go.
go out of your own ways. Because
Yeah.
sometimes, like, regardless of what we say, for example, a church service is a social event. Like, it's a place to network, it's a place to build relationships. But
Right.
some of us would say we don't have Christian or godly connections. And when we are in a place where godly people gather, when we say amen, we run and go.
Oh
Like,
yes.
how will you make it? Like, make it make sense. You don't attend small groups in the neighborhood or, you know, get out of yourself and try and meet people. If you try to build godly connections, I mean, the church is the number one place. Of course, there are Christians everywhere. But if you want to have a gathering of Christians, church service will be a place to go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll say get out of your own way and meet people, talk to people, and be friendly. As simple as that. The friendlier you are, the better or the easier it will be to make friends. Don't
I,
wait
I,
for
I.
people to come your way, but be the one friendly. Be friendly.
Well, something just came up to my mind.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about going out and being friends. What if you do those things and people don't? I'm gonna be. You know what? I'm gonna share my experience, and I didn't even think about it ever since we're talking, but it just came up to my mind. I'm like,
Yeah.
what would you do in a situation like that? So I get into this church. It's a new church, different culture. I'm from an
Mm-hmm.
African culture, and I'm getting into. I'm in a new country and everything,
Yeah.
and I get to meet the youth. I'm among them. I am Cameroonian, like in the French section, which means that I am more blunt
Mm-hmm.
than. And it's not even. I told you at the beginning of this podcast, of this episode, that I am honest and I love
Yeah.
honesty. And I speak with love. Personally, I think that I speak with love. Maybe I can be. Um,
Rough
I
around the edges.
It might happen sometimes that I may not be like very careful, but I am being me. I am being. I think I'm being loving, but I'm also saying things just
Mm-hmm.
like simple. I remember this time we were one time we were cleaning the yard, and I said, and some people did not come, but during Bible study, everybody's there. So I just said, well, it's interesting that some people will not come to do the manual labor, but when there will be Bible study, everybody will be there. And one of the guy asked me, "Do you always say everything that?" And I'm like, "But it's the truth." And I'm just speaking like,
Yeah.
but it's the truth. Like, it's manual labor. We all had to. It's also important. It's for the church. Da, da, da. I'm really simply speaking. Okay, I don't even consider that Korean. This is a different culture. I don't. No, I've never been exposed to that. And down on the line, you realize that people start to exclude you
Yeah.
from, you know, and you don't understand why. But like I told you, there was a point where I would confront and ask, like, what's wrong? So I
Mm-hmm.
did. And I went and I saw, like, the leaders and I asked them, do you have something against me? Like, I don't understand why I'm not being in the gathering. And just for the person to, like, just like you said, for me, because I have experienced certain things in the church before, even back in Cameroon, that made me
Yeah.
leave the church, like these kind of things I knew better.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew how to identify, like, this is a lie, and just for the person to tell me, no, you're cool, there's nothing wrong, da da da. And I'm like, I don't think this is true. I would
Yeah.
have loved for you to be honest with me and say, hey, sometimes you say things that it's different, but then understand or extend grace to me, like, okay, this is a new culture for her. We both have to understand
Adjust.
her. We all have to adjust. But
Yeah.
like me feeling like an outsider and in church, that was very hurtful. But thankfully, like I said, because I've experienced church hurt before, the first time when I experienced church hurt, I left the church. But
Yeah.
this, I did not leave the church, and that was a win, girl. Like, I was like, you know what? We are all here in church, and we all struggle in a certain way. But I'm gonna be like bigger and understand and still stay and still do what I have to do. And it's
Mm.
okay you know, if I'm not being accepted like I would have expected to be
Yeah.
accepted. But it was hard.
Yeah. I can imagine. I can imagine. Oh wow. Well, that's I like that you shared because it for me it shows a couple of points. Like, first, why will God allow us to go through hurt in church? But I think it also comes back to iron sharpening iron. I think we become better based on also our experiences. Like, you handle this better because you had also past history with similar situations, and you can be a better help for someone who struggles with that, or for a newcomer in church, or for someone who comes from a different culture in church. You'll be more welcoming, more accommodating, because you know how it feels. Kind of like there is purpose in our pain to a certain extent. So my last practical step, I think we'll end on that, is I think we all always need to be introduced. There there has to be one person that draws us in the flock, like one person that will be like, that will vouch, that will be like recommending and be
Mhm.
like, I know she's a cool person, I know she's a cool person. So sometimes we can also pray for that, pray for a destiny helper, pray for a connector, like someone who will be the middleman with us and the new community we're joining, because once we have that, it will be easier to navigate. I think from personal experience, I've
But how
seen
would you do
that.
that if you are new in the church, like you don't know, it's a new place, a new city, a new country?
I generally try to, like, first I observe. I
Mm-hmm.
remember the church I joined, I spent like 3 months just observing. At the end of the church, I'll hang out a bit, try to talk with people and with different sets of people every other day, so that I kind of know the vibes of the church. I know the groups and the communities within the church, and with the different people, I see those who respond. Maybe next Sunday, if they see me, like, hey, you're back, da 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 da. Da. So it was generally like that I did. And then when they say we're going out for lunch, I literally had like 2 months of after church stuff to do for the time being, because I was trying to build connections. So if they were going out, I'll be like, okay, I'll join you guys if they're doing this. I remember the first Sunday I came to the church in the afternoon, there was an event, outdoor praise thing, and I just asked for the location, and I went there, and I was just talking with people. So I just tried different connections, and eventually, in the course of time, there will be acquaintances, like there's affinity with 2 3 people, and I'll be like, okay, these can be my people, and I'll try to be more intentional with them, get their numbers, text them, or invite them out, or things like that. And then that's how it happened for me anyway. And that's how I've been in two different churches in two different countries, and that's how it worked. And I think until further notice, that would be the approach I use anyway to build connections in the church. Out of church is different, but in church, that's what I do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is that.
Well, Kira, it was very nice having this talk with you. I mean,
Yeah,
this is probably the longest episode we've had.
probably.
And it's interesting because it shows how much connections or relationships are important in our life.
Mm,
You know, like God made us to be in relationship with one another. So
yeah.
it is a very important topic. Do you have any closing statement that you want to make?
I'd say that the journey will not always be smooth. You will be hurt. Mark my words. You will. It's not prophetic, but you will be hurt because you're dealing with human, and you will hurt and disappoint as well. And it's
Yeah.
okay. It just is part of the journey. Look at Jesus's life. He stood with his disciples even when they were not worth it. Like, the guys were just sometimes
Mhm.
difficult to be with, but he didn't give up on them. And here we are today, bunch of disciples thousands of years later. So it's worth the shot investing in quality
Yeah.
relationships.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. For me, I would just say that having authentic relationships truly do have a positive impact in our emotions, in our confidence,
Mm,
in our everyday life. We need each other and do not give up on wishing or desiring to build up authentic Christian relationships. Your
yeah,
tribe is out there. They'll find you, you'll find them.
I like
So,
that.
thanks, guys, for listening, and we will be with you in our next episode.